Everyone, it's me, Sarah. I'm back, your Christian forgiveness coach, and you are watching Forgive Everyone for Everything Every Day Right Away. And we're going to still talk about emotions. So 1 Corinthians 13:11 says, "When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child and I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I gave up childish ways." So let's talk about that. It has to do with emotions. I want to talk about emotional childhood and emotional adulthood. So, we've talked a little bit about emotions before, what they are, where they come from, how we're resisting them, what we've been taught about them. So, today I want to talk a little bit more on how to actually allow them, how to not resist them, react to them, or avoid them. And I'll tell you right now, it's a skill and it takes practice, committed practice every single day. I have a little text widget on my phone and it says, "Today I will be an emotional adult." And so I see it like every time I pick up my phone. So, what is an emotional adult? It's when we take full responsibility for our emotions and therefore our actions. When we do that, we are being emotional adults. Emotional childhood is when we blame others for how we feel or what we do. So saying it's someone else's fault that you yelled at them or that you're in the position that you're in is emotional childhood. Saying that it's what they did or said that made you slam the door or end up in jail, whatever, that's emotional childhood. Saying it's their fault for bringing ice cream in the house that you then ate and then saw a different number on the scale and now you feel bad about it, that's emotional childhood. If you feel out of control of your emotions, like you had no choice, then you're in emotional childhood. When we give other people or events the responsibility of our emotions, then we're also blaming them for our actions. So I want you to notice that when we do this, when we're in emotional childhood, and we all do this, when we're blaming others for how we feel and we act a certain way, we're also trying to control them. We're trying to control them so that they will act differently, so that we can feel better. So I want you to try to think of it this way. Think of someone who just gets to you. Maybe it's your boss, maybe it's your mother-in-law, or maybe it's your ex. So think of that one person that when you're around them, you just you just lose it, right? Now, I want you to think of this, answer this question. Do you want that person to be in charge of your emotional life? Of course not. But if you're losing it every time you're around them, that's exactly what you're doing. You're handing control over to them. Emotional adulthood, the first thing is recognizing that this is happening, okay? And then it's taking responsibility 100% for your emotions and then learning to make different choices for how you want to feel. Other people don't control our emotions. We don't want them controlling our emotions, yet we give it to them all the time, right? And our emotions don't control us. We control them. Yay, this is good news. They're never out of our control, I promise you. We get so caught up in emotional childhood when we resist, avoid, or react to our emotions. So learning to allow them and process them is emotional adulthood. And it's never too late to learn to do this. I don't care if you are 17 or 97. It's never too late. So how do you do it? How do you allow and process feelings? Last episode, we talked about just accepting the 50-50 of life, accepting that there are negative emotions, they're going to happen. No matter what, they're going to happen. You're going to feel them because of something that you thought. And that's okay. Accepting that. And sometimes we want to feel that way on purpose. Okay. So allowing it, opening up to it, first thing, and then processing them. Instead of avoiding, resisting, reacting, just process it. Remember, we talked about in the first episode of emotions how they're just a vibration in our body, how we can maybe just like write it down, separate story from fact, um, recognize that emotion is just a feeling. Thoughts are thoughts, emotions are vibrations in our body, they're just feelings. And so when we can just separate the two and then, try just describing that feeling, like what, remember I described how frustration felt in my body, and then it's like takes away some of its power, it takes away like the scariness of that emotion. That emotion can't hurt you. It's just a vibration in your body, it's just a feeling. So you can get good at just sitting back and being like, okay, I'm really frustrated right now, what does this feel like? And when you can find it in your body and just kind of practice like describing it, like describe it how you would describe it to somebody who'd never felt it before, or maybe even describe it to an alien who doesn't know what emotions are. Just describe it. Just talk about what that emotion, that vibration feels like in your body, and then remind yourself that you can handle it, that it's just a vibration in your body. It's almost like become like a watcher. Like imagine you're sitting outside of yourself, just observing yourself as if you were in a dream from a very peaceful, non judgmental place, almost like with the curiosity of a child. And do so with compassion. I can't stress this enough that, especially if you're new to this and you're new to allowing those negative emotions and you're realizing they're coming from these thoughts in your mind, it's so easy to start judging yourself. Please don't do that. So just sit back, observe what's happening like a curious child, like Jesus would. He would observe it with love and compassion and curiosity. Okay? Never judgment, never condemnation. Okay? So then once you can just separate that emotion from that thought and from that circumstance that you think is causing it, separate those two and just describe it. Just open up to it, allow it, describe it. And as you do that, you might even feel it moving. You might feel it move through your body, and you can keep describing it, and then it's processed. Okay? And from that part, it's much easier to accept and allow and move forward. Okay? And sometimes you might need to carry that feeling along with you throughout the day. For me, that frustration, it's not like I sit down and I process it and 2 minutes later it's gone. Sometimes, yeah, kind of comes with me a little bit, and that's okay. I can then, from that open, allowing, and processing place, I can explore where that emotion's actually coming from, which of course is my thoughts. Okay? So that's one way that you can start to allow and process. Okay? So it's easy when we're in emotional childhood, it's so much easier to avoid. When we're in pain about something, especially like if it's something from our past, especially if it's something we feel shame about. I heard a sermon the other day that said this. It said, and I hope that this helps you remember when you accepted Christ and you left all of that garbage from the past at the cross. Like think of it this way. The enemy has like a piece of paper on you, on all of us. He's got this piece of paper. Everything you've ever done, every wrong, everything he wants to accuse you of and torment you about and shame you about. He wants to tell you you're unworthy and unlovable. But guess what? when you accepted Jesus and when you truly understood what he did for you on that cross and you surrendered to that, Satan's looking at that piece of paper, and guess what? It's empty. There's nothing on it. In fact, it's covered in his blood. Not Satan's blood, Christ's blood. His blood covered that whole paper and rinsed it clean. So, when you think of it in that way, like how much easier is it to forgive yourself and forgive other people? Okay. When we forgive, especially when it's for someone we're not, say, we're not in contact with anymore, it's certainly for our peace, but remember, it's also to set the example, to show others Jesus. We're the light of the world. Jesus is in us. When we forgive everyone for everything every day right away and walk through the world boldly doing that in front of others, that is being the light of the world. And I've learned the way that we can do that is accepting all the emotions, staying in emotional adulthood, allowing and processing. And here's another thing I've learned. This takes a whole lot of courage. This is not easy. It takes courage to look at what's going on up here. It takes courage to bring some dark stuff out into the light. It takes courage to talk about it. It takes courage to take steps to change it. And it's scary. And here's another thing I know. Courage, we think like, oh, courage is great, feels great. It's so noble. No, courage feels terrible. It's hard, scary. But I want to offer, do it anyway. Because now you know you can handle that emotion. And it's worth it. Courage is hard, but what's waiting on the other side of that is freedom. Freedom from obeying our emotions. Freedom from thinking we have to hide our pain. Freedom from that emotional torment and torture. So you've got this. I've got this. There's so many verses in the Bible that tell us to be strong and courageous for the Lord. He will walk with you. So let's be courageous, even when it doesn't feel so good. All right? We got this. I will talk to you next time. Bye.